All right, so we're going to look at demographic progressions. If I just can remind everyone, Stu has put together a great resource for common CHMS questions, and one of the common ones is demographics is not saving, and we'll look at why demographics doesn't save in this session. So the first thing we'll do is we'll hop into the admin side of Elvanto, and we're going to go into settings. Now, there's a couple of areas we're going to have to look at for demographics. It's quite simple in the grand scheme of things, but there's a few layers. So we'll go into demographics first. You've got all your miscellaneous demographics here that Stu has set up in the dev account. And the main problem that comes up is this chestnut here, demographic progressions. What demographic progressions does is it looks at a set of data like an age bracket or a school grades bracket, or there's also like development based, but that's a bit touch and go. So we'll just look at school grade based and age based today. Essentially what happens is if you set a demographic progression to be that they progress to the next level up when they turn 19 or 22 or whatever it is, they go into an adult or young adult field for demographic. You don't have to manually do that as the admin. You can do that, but the system will do that automatically without you needing to do anything, because the date of birth will change the age and the age will change the demographic progression. Does that make sense? So the way you set that up is two ways. You can set up a demographic progression for the entire demographic of adults, for example. So you could say that an adult is anyone from 21 to 120 years old, and so you won't be in the adult. You won't be progressed to the adult demographic until you turn 21, if that's the setting that you have. The other option is a lot of churches have sub-demographics of adults. So you'd have like young adults, senior, and that's where you can be more specific as to where they fit into that larger age range. There's the option to, within the profile, I'll just show you quickly how that would look. There's the option to have people in like a sub-demographic and a demographic at the same time. Where's demographics there? So you can be in adults and young adults at the same time, or if you just want to set it to you can be in young adults, that's also possible. But you need to make sure that the demographic progression is set up so that that's possible on both ends. Now, the age range, age-based demographic progression is pretty self-explanatory. You just would set up a date of birth, and that would change the age as the years roll on, and that would then trigger the demographic progression. With school grade, the school grades are a built-in field within CHMS, so you would go into people within your settings, and it's actually down here. Sorry, school grades and demographics. So you can add extra school grades as you see fit, and that will become an option to change within the demographic progression setup. The only other thing we'll look at on this page is these two things. When does a school grade move up a level? So different states and different countries have rules on when a school grade starts. So if if a child is turning 5 in March, they may not make the cut to get into preschool this year or kindergarten this year. They might have to wait until the next year. So that's just like state-based, um, and sometimes nationally there's laws around that. So you would just set the date that's relevant to where you're at for when people move up a level for their school grade. And then the other thing is disabling the auto-assigned demographic progression. So if you're in someone's profile and they don't have a date of birth, this can be very handy. Or if they don't have a school grade assigned, this can be very handy, so that it actually allows you to save the demographic into their profile without them having any of the criteria for the demographic progression. It just means that when you know that that person has gone to the next stage in the demographic list, you would have to manually change that if you still don't have the data there for the demographic progression to trigger the change.
Hey, Lockie, really quick on that.
Yeah.
So if you're disabling that, that's for every new person that you add because you're in the people settings, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, wow. Do a lot of people use that? That seems kind of crazy because that means that like their whole congregation would never move up automatically.
Yeah, it does seem a bit crazy, and it's helpful in like very rare occasions. There's like ladies who don't like to give their year of birth, but they'll give like their
day and how old they are. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like it's for the exception. It's not like a general rule, and obviously administrators for churches would be encouraged to push people for their date of birth if they can, and obviously enter that data if they haven't. But I would say most people would just use the disable when editing existing people, just because it's really annoying to not be able to save a demographic on an existing person. They could have been in your church for years, and you've never put them in a demographic, and then you try to, and it doesn't let you save. That can be really annoying. So that's within settings people. We'll just quickly go back into demographics in settings. Move a new back up here. And we'll go into children just as an example for the school grade-based. You have all those options there as to the school grade where they progress to as they go through the sub-demographics. You can set all of this up when a new customer gets in and they set all of this up. They can set all the parameters of it, but it's not going to do anything until you go to assign demographic progression and then click this button. And that's going to apply all of those settings, look for all the data in the people database and go, okay, these people are in these demographics. And that's when it triggers the demographic progression. So some people set it all up and they're like, it's not working. And it's just because they haven't actually triggered it or assigned the demographic progression to their account yet. So that's really important to remember. Yesterday, I had a really tricky situation come up that can kind of catch you off guard if you don't know what you're looking for. I had this lady, Elisa, call me, and she said, hey, there's this person, he's in his 20s, and I tried to save him into, I think they have like a young adults demographic, but it won't let me. It keeps defaulting to year 3 to 5, so like a child's demographic, and there was no indication as to why that would be there. And I looked into their account and they have like adults and youth and child specific people categories. And when you have specific people categories, you can filter out fields. And I don't know how this happened, but essentially in the adult member people category, which he was in, this guy, they didn't have the school grade field in the layout. So she's going, there's no school grade, like he's an adult, there's no school grade. But I did an advanced search. This was the criteria. She may still have it. Yeah. So that was the criteria I searched on it. And essentially, it gave me the results that yesterday he was, so he's now no longer in there. But it would come up with that he was in grade 3. He was assigned to grade 3. And in that case, you would need to remove him via a mass manage, because you can't do it from his profile. So that's just something to keep in mind. You all know how to do a mass manage. I don't need to show you that. You would just go into, just to do it quickly, you just go school grade and then just set him to none, because if they're an adult, they're not obviously in school. I think that covers it. I went through it fairly quickly though. So are we all good with that? Any questions that prop up from that? Any thoughts, queries, liturgical dancing? No, we're good. Cool. I think Addie's on a call, so we might just end it there. Thanks, guys. Look, we'll catch you later.
Brilliant job.
Great job. See ya.